Sophie, Gallup poll comes out saying that Americans' trust in the media is yet again at record lows. Let's have a look at some of the numbers here, which are just about 14% of Republicans have any sort of serious trust in the media. About 34% of people say they have a great deal or fair amount of trust. And young people, well, they don't trust it at all. And there's lots of different reasons for this. For some, they don't trust the corporate press. For some, they don't trust the boomer press. For some, they don't trust the lefty press. But this has been going on for a long time now. Why do you think people feel this?
Well, this is a real concern, Paul, but you're right. It's been happening for decades, really, the lack of trust in media. Sometimes I read news articles, in Australia and overseas, and I am baffled because they almost seem to be an opinion article when they're meant to be a straight news story.
Hallelujah,
I think. Exactly, and I think, Paul, a lot of this stems back from how journalists are taught their trade. Going back right to uni days, I mean, we've seen a lot of these students come out of uni, they become reporters, and then they almost become activist journalists who want to push their causes. Can we have journalists sitting on the fence when they're writing news reports? And that might be a way of winning back the trust of the public by writing straight news rather than dressing up news, which is really an opinion article, but dressing it up as if it's a news story.
100%. But also there's this little thing, James, that you will have seen plenty of times as well, which is when the person who writes the straight news story then turns around and writes the opinion story later in the paper under analysis of exactly the thing that they were straight news reporting on, which kind of tells us where their bent comes from.
Yeah. Look, I will say, Sophie, whenever I see an article that's written by you, I do have a great deal of faith in you, and the Australian does have a number of journalists that I do put a great deal of trust in. But this is the issue. We've been fed so many lies, so many stories that just haven't stacked up over time, and people have cottoned onto that. And the media, unfortunately, in this country has shrunken. I worked in it years ago, and gradually over time, through networking and other means, there isn't that localism in markets anymore, so there isn't the in-depth search. And I know journalists are under the pump to try and put out stories, but if they're not going to be factual, you're only going to lose the reader.